Welcome to session 11 of Horizon and Marmoris. It's been a little bit of a wait, but we're back. Who wants to do the recap last time? Or from last time? Hmm. Um, Let me see. It has a name. I can tell you that much. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that's about the gist of it. The ship was careened on the shore, and John and Arnud assisted with leading the repairs. They're still ongoing, but they've left most of the crew sort of camping on the shore, while some of them sought more luxurious accommodations. Anything I missed from anyone else, or that anyone else knows? All right. So we'll jump back into the action, essentially where we left off. We were standing in a low ceilinged wood paneled office within the limestone walls of the fort, having made their way through. And Red Gull, this youngish black woman with a big grin, who has been sort of their guide, or not their guide, who has been sort of the first other awakened that they've met in ever. She had been talking about to you about the company of the Codex, their ideals, who they are, their goal of mage freedom and mage democracy, and taking what they deserve from a world that's committed to keeping them down. And we'll hop back in right there. Ears. Yeah. So when you say call her a seer, her eyebrows like sort of you all see her eyebrows like shoot up into her head, and her demeanor gets a bit more vaguely dangerous feeling. She's not snarling or baring her teeth or anything, but there's this sudden predatory, almost mean that comes over her. And when she says, "You've met the seers," so I think that she looks you all over. You seem, or what's sort of Hull's demeanor like at the moment? Putting on airs or in the know? Other servants of the tyrants. Tell me, young mages, does this word mean anything to you? She says, sort of in a questing. She says this in sort of a probing manner, and she speaks the speech, and you are suddenly each bowled over by a pure expression of oppression. She speaks sort of this word in high speech. You've spoken the speech to each other before, but you've spoken of symbols that you've seen and their manifestation and the phenomenal of this tree or that time or this and that fate. Uh, but this word, oppression, sort of carries more true than any truth you've spoken to each other in the speech before, and you're almost a little bit bowled over by it. Well, Dalian wouldn't necessarily know that, but well, I mean, so out of character, Dalian hasn't had like contact with Mage Society before, so he doesn't necessarily know what the Seers of the Throne are. Oh, did she? Okay. Yeah, I think she might. So if I recall correctly, she probably called them something like the servants of the tyrants or some such, flowery language. But in any case, yeah, we're perfectly happy to retcon, Gull's reaction to an extent. Like maybe Hull let her tongue slip and sort of use the word seer and was, quickly sort of corrected if we're happy with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, so I think Gull shifts moods like very quickly after that, as you've seen, most of her moods be quick shifting at this point, openly at least. And she says, "The world over, the servants of the Iron Pyramid work to advance the cause of oppression, to cement their fetid, moldering gods grip from above on this world below, on us poor saps stuck in the mud. But here in the Caribbean, they've got their legs a bit cut out from them thanks to our mojo. Um, you'll learn more about this if you decide to formally join our number, but these are the freest waters in the world, and the servants of the tyrants tread lightly here, them and their idiot lapdogs. And if you are interested in becoming inducted into our number, then we should talk about initiation, should we not? Um, and she sort of looks for a response to that prospect. Very well. Understandable. And so, ha- she thinks for a bit, and she's sort of. You can see that she's running through a list in her head. And she says, I think that of uh, my mates, the only ones who would be in town right now and open to talk would be. Where did I put that? Ah, there we go. If you look in the evening, in at, and then she tells you, a particular bar whose sign you might have seen near the waterfront. You may find a older white woman who has, a particular mode of dress. Look for the hat with the biggest feather you've ever seen. Uh, they that will be Moonlight Above Pale Shoals. Always a flair for the dramatic. Um, she can tell you more about what she does. She is our fixer, in of sorts. She makes safe harbor in unsafe waters and finds us contacts. And as far as the right, or rather, I suppose I should call it a trial if I wanted to be adequately dramatic. If you ever did decide to join our number, she can assist you with that. I've told you, or so have you told, out of character, have you told Gull that you are pirates, privateers, gentle men and gentle women of fortune yourselves? Okay. Hmm. Well, should you ever decide to, perhaps pursue joining our wonderful company, you'll perhaps be able to kill two birds with one stone, as it are, because the trial is something you'll likely already be doing to see your heart's desire and seize it. Specifically, magical cargo, cargo of a supernatural nature, whether that be the magic of us will workers or some other sort of phenomenal spookiness, or she doesn't say spookiness, obviously, some sort of phenomenal witchery. See your heart's desire, claim it for your own, with boldness, with strength, and then you'll be a true member of the company. Of course, should you decide that we're good company to share. Um, in any case, if there's nothing else that we can do for you, I'll let Moonlight know to expect some drinking companions this evening. And at this, she'll pull a cord sort of to the side of her desk, and in due time, the same attendant who brought you in will come to lead you out. Is there anything else at this point before leaving the fort slash leaving the office that anyone wants to do, ask, say? Um, uh, very much that. She says that the pirates are a rowdy lot, but the company are a fellowship, an organization of honor among thieves, as it were. If she says that if you clearly mark your territory in sort of with the invisible arts, your possessions, that is, then you are unlikely to they are likely to be respected, and you ought to tread warily if you find anything particularly shiny on Nassau, which is thus marked. Anything from anyone else? Hmm. Did you? Sorry, what was that, Emmerich? Yeah, and to be clear, she's not telling you not to steal people's shit. She's telling you that there would be consequences. Right. Um. So at this, she sort of steeples her fingers and grins while looking at you. In Nassau for a day and still looking for rules and fence posts and guidelines. Smart, but a little. Hmm, yeah, well, let me think. She would say the general gist is like, yeah, smart but not very piratey. As she says, laughingly. But Nassau is company territory. There are many of us here, and the will workers keep this place safe. Further inland on what's this island called? I always forget. Oh, I should probably unpause. It is New Providence Island. There we go. Further inland on New Providence, you will find more and more of the loyalists to our former overlord, King James. On another, or sort of a smaller outlying island, you'll find the lieutenant governor left over from when the last time his boss packed up and ran with his tails between his legs. Um, they're not much to worry about, more bark than bite. Sends letters asking for Her Majesty to, or His Majesty to come and save them all. But in I think he'll like give you sort of a rough area. I don't know if it has like a town name or not, but further inland, south of this or that valley, you'll find territory claimed by a will worker who is not one of our number, and who very much likes his privacy, tending to his congregation. Metatron, he goes by among the awakened, Father Richard to his flock. I recommend care out that way if you're looking to make trouble. Metatron. Yes. Yeah, I think yeah, she might say the word apostate, uh, which, um, you probably look quizzically at, and then she explains it means, a mage who has left the orders and is not part of one. Not that we know of. Perhaps some hedge witches or whatnot, but all good Christian, God fearing folk they are, it's unlikely. Mostly farmers out that way. Not very much to draw one out there, especially given that there's no trees to log for the ships anymore on New Providence anymore. They can keep their farmsteads so long as they don't want, or so long as they don't make trouble. Yeah, it was, if I recall correct, or Dalian, did you want to like ask about medicine or something? I recall that vaguely from a Discord combo. Well, I I think I've given out, for now, all of the free samples of knowledge, that I've got for the day. As you say, medicine. She sort of grins a little bit and like glances around at the many large jars of samples of body parts and chemicals sort of lining the walls around you. But she says that, if you're looking to learn to read and write, I hear Molly at the Crimson Cutlass. No, is a woman of letters, and she's always looking for business, so she might be able to help you, if you're looking to learn your reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, and so with that, you're led out. You guys weren't talking for all that long, probably about an hour, and you arrived in the early morning. So the sun is sort of probably mid morning at this point as you exit the fort and find yourselves on the like long beach path, leading from it back to, the docks. What do you do? Moonlight above pale shoals. Oh dear. So aside from road trip, is there anything else that anyone wanted to do before they left? Check in on. Um, I actually have to run to the bathroom, so you discuss among yourselves. But I'm back. So, what have we decided as a course of action? Okay, cool. So it is a little bit of a trek, as far as you understand from your, knowledge of how big New Province is, and what you were told in terms of directions. So I assume you spend a little bit of time sort of in the port, supplying yourselves for the day trip, um, getting things together. Is there anything in particular that anyone wanted to do, or anyone to talk to or check in with before leaving? He's also, did I say he was a sleepwalker, or? Mhm. Um, yeah, so I think that as far as I'm aware, the only sleepwalker who you have encountered is the captain of that ship you took over, Georgia. And maybe, so like, who has Prime? That would be Hull. Hull knows sort of that there is a difference between sleepers and sleepwalkers in terms of some non-mages still having sort of a shard of this unreality sort of lodged into their souls, and that Georgia does not. So she knows that there's a difference, and that this sort of leaking unreality coming from normal sleepers is what interferes with their magic and causes them pain. So she could probably have drawn the inference. But in any case, so you're going to at least talk to Balthazar. So I assume you're heading back towards the ship. Okay. At this point, sort of everyone is up by this time. Breakfast has been made and is being served out. Around the cook fires. People are getting ready to continue work on the ship. Some people are still drunk. Standard shore leave, and you find Balthazar talking, or sort of, yeah, he's standing with Raoul talking about something or other, sort of on the other side of the beach from where you are approaching. Okay. Okay. So the two of you approach. As you get closer, I think Raoul probably notices you coming because Balthazar has your back to you, and he'll, point you, or, he'll hail you as you get closer, and Balthazar will turn. Hello, we were just talking about the resupply efforts. It seems that there's a shortage of anything, or, we're looking for food, water, rum. It seems that there's a shortage of the things that one would actually want aside from rum thus far, so we'll have to pay a bit more out of pocket for it. And you clearly have something on your mind, so what is it? Raoul sort of raises an eyebrow at that and looks at Balthazar, who turns and sort of nods at him and says, "I will come find you later." They're speaking Spanish, so anyone who speaks enough Spanish gets the sense of that. But Raoul sort of nods grudgingly and walks off. What is it? And there's definitely or so both of you give me a wits plus empathy roll -2. Okay, cool. Both successes. So Balthazar has clearly already got something on his mind related to you lot, but is trying to, be hidden about it. Shazam. Um, Circumspect, I guess. And he asks, "So, what is it that you need of me?" Pirates, you mean? Far as the eye can see, go throw a stone and you'll hit 5 in a pile. Your line of business. With emphasis on the your, he says, or as he speaks. Um, and his expression sort of darkens a little bit, but well, and will this be profitable business? You have leave to do as you like. You don't need to come to get a hall pass from teacher. He seems sort of surprised and taken aback by this, and is silent for a bit, thinking deeply. Before he replies that I will come with you. Let me. I will make arrangements, and then I will meet you at this place in town. I will meet you at what passes for a general store here. Uh, within 1 hour. Uh, and sort of without waiting for your response, he turns and goes to talk to Raoul again. Okay. And Hall's standing sort of at a distance, so the exact sort of depth of reading people that she can do is limited by distance and her at this point normal human eyesight. Uh, but she probably gets the gist that the affirmation wasn't enthusiastic. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So everyone, gets together, food and water and everything, for the journey. Anything else before, we reach the quest point at the general store? Oh, also, so sorry, minor addition. Sort of as you're turning to leave the beach, Raoul sort of, probably walks up and catches up to you, and asks, "Oh, by the way, uh, do you know where that woman prisoner of yours has gotten off to? I know she's not exactly our prisoner, since she has sort of full reign, but we haven't, or full leave of herself, but we haven't seen her since yesterday." As far as I'm aware, it was sort of, the company always dealing with her, keeping her sort of, isolated from the rest of the crew. If you would have made arrangements to have someone watch her, then this will be slightly different, but Um, it's possible that that is true. We can retcon to say that it was true. Okay. So, mhm. uh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Either way, the crew wouldn't have seen her. So, if that is the case, then you can tell Raoul that she is elsewhere. Um, I think that Dalian wanted to stay there because it had real beds and wooden frame. Yeah, somewhere. Okay. Okay. Cool. So nothing else from anyone. At which point we can move on to an out just before noon, when everyone's getting ready to head off. Balthazar's there, sort of, you know, carrying a pack, as the rest of you are, and he is alone as far as you can tell. And he, greets you as you approach. Mm-hmm. Uh, how do you do so? Just sort of in terms of asking, quest probing, like directly probing questions, sort of dancing around things. How's it go? Mm-hmm. Asking questions or performing witchcraft, perhaps. Will I get to see some of this art of yours? Hmm. So yeah, so he is displaying sort of that same pointed curiosity that he had last time. After the first confrontation. And he's asking questions and probably frustrated when he can't receive sort of a full throated answer that he's going to see something, but there's something he clearly wants to ask you that he isn't. I didn't hear that very last bit. Um, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he sort of he acknowledges your words. He like looks at you or left at you, side eye, but he doesn't say anything further. At that point, I imagine that at a given point, as you're sort of walking through mostly open fields, really, as Gall mentioned, there really isn't any trees on the island worth calling trees. Much of it has been cut down for use in ships and use as firewood. There's probably a point in the walking where the lines get strung out a little bit, and I picture Balthazar sort of being a bit behind, maybe with Hall, with Dalian and Pascal sort of up front, and he asks Hall sort of in a quiet voice that well, it's not directly asked, but anyway, he says, since we first spoke about this business, even before then, I have been unable to stop thinking in all of my idle moments about you, about all of you. When my thoughts are unoccupied, I picture you all. I daydream about you all. I sometimes dream at night about you all. Have you bewitched me? Am I ensorcelled to keep you in my thoughts? Is this some art you've used? He's a little you get the sense he didn't know what he was expecting when he asked the question. And he's both relieved and worried by sort of Hall's answer and the surety of her answer. But he, nods and sort of looks away while nodding. Says, that is good, but this is not normal. It's not normal for one to be this obsessed with that many others. And he acknowledges this without saying anything, or he acknowledges this clearly but without words, and continues nodding. Says, "Well, then I guess I will. I have no choice but to continue to dream." Um, and at this point, you probably catch up with the others who may have noticed that you've stopped. Are you asking this directly of Hull or of the both of them together when they both catch up? Yes. Uh, he seems sort of more sure than he was before leaving. Whether that's sort of what's it, sunk cost bias, or whether that's newfound bravery. He nods resolutely, and with some of his characteristic, flamboyance, makes a big hand gesture and says, "Well, lead the way forward." Yeah. So before too long, an hour of walking, maybe a bit more, have passed. Some of that is stopping for wayfinding, and trying to pick the best path. But eventually, you get there. Or by get there, you get to sort of the landmark which Gull had pointed out to you. A large formation of three hills, which are in a roughly sort of triangular arrangement. Well, I guess it's also impossible for three things to not be in a triangular arrangement, but anyway, you crest over sort of the first of these hills, and through the dip between the remaining two, you can see what looks like a small farming community. There's at least sort of a half dozen, distinct fields that you can see in the distance. You see, crops being grown, animals, small number of farmhouses, and at the far end of this town, or this sort of farming community, you can see a uncharacteristically tall build, or a tall sort of very church-like building. It's clearly got the steeple. It's got sort of the stained glass windows. It's made of stone, and sort of an unexpected sort of level of workmanship and size and grandeur for a structure out here in the middle of nowhere, Providence Island. It's not, the size of Notre Dame de Paris, but it's bigger than your average, country church. And you and I think Balthazar says, "Oh, that's certainly not limestone. I wonder where they quarried it in from." Yeah, that's true. Anyone can flare their nimbus intentionally. Right. And notably, if you intentionally flare your nimbus, then it's visible to sleepers as well. Obviously, your nimbus would flare if you just cast a spell. Anyway, That's more like sort of leaving your calling card on an object, but I could very easily imagine sort of a prime compelling spell that makes your Nimbus sort of that increases the, sort of range of being noticed of your Nimbus flaring. Hmm. Yeah, sure. Uh, that's a thing you could totally do. To answer Dalian's question, he said that he was dreaming about all three of you, not just Hall. Um, so there's the deal about increasing the impression level of anyone who sees it, penalized by the potency of the spell. So if you can get the spell off without provoking paradox, I'll let you just go for it. But otherwise, I'd want to know the potency for it if we're doing that bit. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Just potency one then. We'll assume. Cool. I'm not gonna make you roll for it. All right. So cool. So you guys are walking, sort of down this open street between the two fields. This is sort of the main big thoroughfare. Big, by big I mean very rutted with wagon wheels. It's clear that this is the route that what wagons or traders or horse-drawn carriages do take come through here on the way from the fields to the church. And you're walking occasionally. Folk are, or a couple of times, I'll say like two times. You have folk who pass you by, either on foot or on horse, and you get greeted and hailed with some amount of recognition that you're not from around here, and you're a little bit rough looking. So there is an amount of suspicion, but not outright hostility, beneath the politeness of greeting you. Eventually, you do reach sort of the grounds of the church, and the workmanship that you can see from right up in front of it is finer even than you were able to see from a distance through whatever telescopes or whatnot you might have used. The carving is fine. The masonry is well done. The stone is clearly what would it be? This stone is clearly granite, which, as far as you can tell, you have not seen anywhere on the island. So it definitely wasn't quarried locally. Um, the stained glass windows are, depict religious art and scenes from Christian theology as expected. And the door is, you know, it's not enormous, but it's a big wide door. Lots of folks can come in and out of. Made of dark wood. Okay. Um, so you definitely see sort of things popping out at you. Nothing resonating with sort of Prime and Fate, but there is magic afoot that you can vaguely tell, but you don't quite understand through your current arcana or through the current arcana of your site. You don't see any sort of destinies embedded into the stone or anything like that. Okay. Um, you see lots of resonance of so just spirit sight. Okay, that's fine. So the resonance of the building itself is of pride, of granite, of yeah, a lot of granite resonance, and pride and peace. And as you sort of approach the doors, actually, hold on, let me think. So as you were sort of walking in, or this will be sort of a little bit of a minor retcon of a couple of seconds, but as you were sort of approaching the church proper, not like immediate at it, probably a radius of about half a mile, you all felt something resonating with your peripheral mage sight. Um, some thing ambiently around you in this area, sort of causing your sight, sounds, smells to pick up traces of something supernatural. For Hull, it was Prime, or a Prime related phenomenon. Yep. So looking around you, you see quite a lot. Sort of over the area, the whole of that area in question. You see this awakened spell, sort of around this area. You see a number of spells, sort of on the building itself, and also sort of covering various areas of the farmlands around you. And I Yeah, and some of it's prime. The spells, or with your peripheral sight, as you approach the building itself, you would be able to pick them up with your You all pick them up with your peripheral sight, and the spells on the building, or several of the spells on the building itself, resonate with something which you haven't encountered before, with matter. Mhm. Um, So or I'm gonna say that like as you guys are approaching, you see the door open up, sort of as you're getting closer, and as you walk up, you see an older gentleman who he appears to have light skin, well tanned light skin, and is wearing your classic frock of the English Anglican Church. Uh, and as you, or were you going to do your signature Nimbus calling card thingy before your supernal vision, or okay? And what it remind me, what Hull's signature Nimbus is like? Very cool. Yeah, so your words, sort of flow forward, almost like a tide carrying these sensations with them. And as you say, sort of in the actual sounds that you make when you call him by Metatron, his eyes quickly dart around, looking for anyone who might have been nearby an earshot, and after that brief moment of suspicion, verifies that no one's around, and relaxes slightly, but is a bit rankled. Says, "Come in, come in. Uh, we should not speak of so openly out here." And he's a little bit sort of gruff. You get the feel. His voice is a bit, it's pretty baritone, unlike mine, and is a bit grating. But he leaves the door open behind him and leads the way into the church. Do you follow? Okay. Balthazar is following along, sort of getting visibly slightly more worried as things are finally starting to happen. Um, and as they enter the church, go ahead. Right. No, Balthazar is definitely a lapsed Catholic, and you enter the church. The door closes, firmly but quietly behind you, sort of smooth and silent as it settles into place. No squeaks, no thumps, and the air within settles. Inside the church, there's currently no one else that you can see. The windows have light streaming through them from above, but the church is still shadowy without any candles or anything lit, and the air is very still and quiet. Even the echoes seem to be subdued inside this space. And as he leads you towards, what do they call it? The nave? Is that the thing? Uh, the central part of the church, flanked by the aisles. Yeah, so he leads you sort of from the nave to one of the aisles on the side of the church, where there are some, benches sat in one of the alcoves, clearly for sitting. And he gestures for you to sit as he sets himself down into a fine carved wooden armchair. What brings you to my territory? Are you company folk? No, he wouldn't say folk. What do we say? Are you agents of the company? That gets an eyebrow raise. Not like a bad eyebrow raise from him, but sort of not what he was expecting to hear. And says, "And how did you find me? Why have you found me?" Wise. Um, Tell me, who are you? You know my name, but I know not who you are. You are Mist, you said? Okay. Is this the first time Dalian has started to go by an alias with the rest of these folks? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. And um, at this point, Balthazar, I imagine, is sort of standing off to the side, and I don't think Metatron really looks at him, given that he clearly doesn't want attention drawn to him. He glances at this person, but doesn't wait for Balthazar to answer. Instead, focusing on you three. And tell me, what did the company? Or he leans forward a bit. He puts his elbows on his knees, steeples his fingers together. Is clearly looking at you, and you all feel your peripheral mage sight, sort of resonating with something he is doing. Paul, you get a sensation of uh, prime as well as death. Um, as he sort of, you get the sense through your mundane senses or your magical senses of sort of, being observed deeply. And sort of after about, I'm gonna say maybe half a second of this, he leans back, sort of satisfied with his inspection. He goes, so the company would like another brace of strapping will workers to spread their terror across the high seas and claim as much booty as they can pillage and dig out of the earth as they can find. Does that sound, or was that the pitch that they gave you, following your heart's desire, letting nothing stopping you from claiming what's yours, that sort of thing? Well, it's a good one for a lot of folk. Many people in this world are beaten down by it, are actively oppressed, are dispossessed of what could be theirs. And in the face of such a thing, or in the face of such circumstances, wanting to take back and claw and grab as much as you can is reasonable, is it not? Unfortunately, what happens when one does that is you end up like Providence Island, for example, with the eastern half of it corroding into the sea because the trees have been cut down and there's nothing but wind-blown sand collapsing into the waters. There's sacred places seething or formerly flush with mana, with supernal energy, empty and barren. There's mysteries polluted, their knowledge left inaccessible to those who might come after, drunken to the last drop. And that doesn't seem like a better world to me. That doesn't seem like a world that's been built to transform into something better, does it? Of course not. Otherwise, I would be a pastor of a much larger church in central London with swaths of servants and more gold than I could count. Uh, the servants of the tyrants are rewarded well themselves. For them, magic is payment, as they call it. They receive wealth, both magical and mundane, unimaginable to us in exchange for helping to drive the stake of tyranny deeper into this world. No, the alternative is to build, not to build soul-crushing edifices of extraction and empire the way the Iron Kings would have us do, but to build good things, to build community, to build places where people can live freer from the injustices of the state of the world as they can, of hunger and of thirst, for example, of loneliness and of uh, what would he say? And of despair. To build something, not to take. The company, what's their second precept? He thinks for a bit. He's clearly heard it before, but it's been a while since he's thought much about them or thought much about the particulars of their ideology. Claim but never usurp. Was that it? Take everything that's left in the rum or left from the plantation, steal the sugar, loot the rum, burn the fields, but never grow anything yourself. Never set yourself up as master of this domain to build something better than what you found. Just claim what was made left there by others, what was built by others. Well, it depends. There's a lot in the world to. Uh, there are so few of us awakened, and so much of the world. I imagine that the locusts could continue to eat and eat and eat until they were, for much longer than I'll be alive. I'm sure, but it's certainly not making anything better for those who are left behind, is it? Things change. Everything changes from the state it was before to a new state constantly. Even endings are changes. But the question is, will what is left be better than what was there before once we have made things to change? It's certainly what I'd like to think I'm doing here. I haven't had a child die in my parish in, oh, at least 5 years. The people are well fed. They have happy lives doing meaningful work. Keep I can't say that as much for the people falling drunk outside of the beaches and getting into fistfights, losing their teeth in Nassau. Yes, they know that they are particularly blessed by God above in this land. The soil is always, or the soil is unusually fertile. The food is good. Uh, the weather is kind to them. And if they think it because of their piety or because of some other cause, the end result is the same. When they have a need for advice or counsel, their beloved priest is always around to deliver the word of God and comfort them. I think that this conversation is mostly in English, and Balthazar does speak English, but he's sort of following a. So he's probably not following the sort of flowery, highfalutin, high English that this guy is speaking as well, but he gets the gist. And he's just sort of like watching with a funny Catholic expression. Well, so I think that without beating the horse to death, I've told you what I think of the company. Um, what do you intend to do now? You don't seem to be particularly seasoned in the ways of our hidden world. Where will you go? What will you do? Yeah. Um, like sort of narrow-eyed. Mhm. You definitely get the sense that he notices your skepticism. You also don't get the sense he cares. Uh, um, I think that Balthazar is sort of like immediately like shocked to be brought out of the shadows in one swoop. As he stammers and hems and haws for a little bit. Metatron sort of looking at him now and watching, sort of both inscrutably and patiently. Um, he says that I was never much of a farmer myself. This valley, I I would go crazy. I would go off the deep end and throw myself off those dissolving beaches, living here in this perfect farmland of contentment. I This isn't the good life for everyone. What can we build for? What do you build for those who want to wander the world and find, make what they find better? And he stammers through all of this, sort of, get very much giving the impression that he's like coming up with his words as he speaks them, but sort of this impression of his flamboyant, like, sort of wanderlust comes through. And Metatron, looks at him and nods and says, "Well, you better hope that whoever is leading your ship uh, makes it a nice place to or sorry, what would he say? He would probably say something pithy. Well, if you're always on the road, you'd better hope that whoever is maintaining your wagon has done it well. You're always somewhere, even if you're moving. And if everywhere in the world is built to be better, to be less overrun with bandits and brigands, well, then your constant journeys will be nicer, won't they?" Um, and so his question sort of answered in terms of, well, his question wasn't really answered. He asked, what will you do now? And then he got some answers from Pascal and Dalian about sort of building up the ship and the crew and making, they have their own people to work on. I think that'll be sort of a adequately satisfying answer. Will workers though you be, even at this point, he like gives a side eye glance to Balthazar with a vaguely disapproving. He like glances sideways at Balthazar and then back at you slightly skeptically, disapprovingly. Will workers though you be, someone still needs to pick the or brew the rum and harvest the food for you. Take care of your people, and whether you end up pirates again or in some other more virtuous occupation, you'll be in adequate comfort. Is there anything else? Yes, especially when one is coming into his domain. You must have mean my alarm bell, he says. Oh, earlier, yeah. Usual, perhaps. Rude, certainly. But when one is outnumbered and expecting potentially unpredictable guests, you'll forgive my indulgence. You'll have to forgive my indulgence. If you take offense, we can fight about it. You don't get a sense of either relief or disappointment when you clearly don't want to fight. Um, that's a good question. Give me a wits plus empathy roll -4. Success. Yeah, you get the feeling he doesn't feel like he needs to lie to you, um, because doesn't see any reason. Uh, he doesn't see you as threats, essentially. Threats enough to need to, lie about why he's here. Um, he also doesn't see you as sort of, too far gone to such that you wouldn't, care about what he's saying. Like, in terms of being, rapacious or bloodthirsty or anything like that. Okay. So given that everyone seems to be sort of, winding down in terms of having anything more to talk about, there's probably sort of an amount of conversation where he asks some questions about, you know, how did you find NASA, and you know, maybe you give him news of what's new in NASA. Maybe you are buttoned up, and he seems to, accept either way. Um, but is there anything else that you wanted to ask or do while you're here in the church while he is with you? Um, sure. He is happy to let you continue to look around the nave, and he will, answer any questions you have about sort of the workmanship, about the church, about the Anglican Church, and so what sort of how does Dalian go about sort of looking around? Does he like actively ask questions? Is he silently inspecting things? All of that normal regalia. Are the rest of you coming along for the tour, or do you wait by the door slash outside? Balthazar clearly is not interested in touring the church and is sort of standing near the door. Okay. Okay. Sure. So are there any particular questions that you wanted to ask Stallion other than just general, about the building and the church and the beliefs and all that? Anything in, particular? Um, Materials and money are things that I am blessed by the Almighty to not have to be overly concerned about. And with Balthazar gone, sort of Dalian sort of, well, he looks over, or Metatron sort of feels more comfortable doing an actual display as, Balthazar or Dalian sees Metatron sort of picking up a, cup of water, a goblet that was near the altar as he, waves his hand over the water inside in a clearly, unnecessary gesture, but very familiar to him, and turns the inside, or you see the contents of the water turning into uh, nuggets of gold, sort of mounded and piling up, yet not spilling out of the cup, despite sort of the gold sort of, piling up before it sort of falls back down in the form of water. It certainly helps to, ensure that the soil is fertile and that it has everything our crops need to allow, and it helps to ensure that we had the materials we need to construct this church. Um, I try not to interfere too much with God, the, way God has arranged the world, but sometimes our will doesn't align with circumstances. And yeah, was there anything else from Dalian? Well, we know that there is a heaven. We can see the supernal above, and there is a higher reality of, and a beyond. Whether that be my God or not is a matter of faith, as it was prior to the awakening. Mm, yes, the tyrants, the quote unquote gods, as they call them, of the supernal above, the powerful entities of oppression who rule there. I know not why they are in the position that they are. Perhaps it is because humanity has made it such with their love of oppressing each other and stealing and taking and tearing down. Perhaps it is the other way around, and the one is because of the other. Either way, I know that they are not the true God, powerful as they are, and that they have not created the world, the stuff it is made of. Um, Uh, oh, and one last free word of advice. Go easy on the sympathy. Um, Building sympathetic connection is a powerful way to get in graces with those around you. Don't overdo it. And with that, he doesn't elaborate further and leads you out the door. Um, yeah. So meanwhile, we will cut back to what the others were doing while Dalian was inside. Okay. So how are you planning on inspecting the church? Hmm. Okay. Yep. Yep. So yep. Fair enough. So the entire building is sort of, coded in Metatron's signature nimbus, as one would expect, or rather a signature nimbus, which matches Metatron's. The his signature nimbus is the sensation of wings flapping above cool ocean breeze and following sort of salty updraft. Well, yeah, actually, it's more the like salty updraft and the sense of wind and salt and the scent of uh it than the actual wings, but there is definitely a sense of movement in the salt. Anyway, but the spells are multifaceted, which is something that's new to Hall. She gets the sense that as she inspects a given spell with her prime sight or a prime unveiling spell or something like that, and chats about it, these spells are doing multiple things. There are multiple imagos sort of combined into one instance of supernal energy. Exerting multiple effects over this building, and they are matter spells, which is not something that Hall has encountered before. I think that she probably experiences, or anyone sort of inspecting them experiences them as symbols of sort of solidity, of state, of sort of reaction, and of yeah, of solidity, of place, of material and chemistry. Hmm. Hmm. Well, because matter is inferior per Pascal, also, so this might be hard for him to sort of grasp. Like, what do you mean the stone itself? The okay, um, and when there's a lull, Samara. Mhm. Okay. Um, and with that, I think this is a good point to take our break. So we will be back in 10 minutes. So see you at the hour. Welcome back to Horizon and Marmoris. We're back. Before the break, we um. Oh, I should end the break time, shouldn't I? Okay, cool. So before the break, there had been a fair degree of scrutiny of the church. The mages on the outside, Hull and Pascal, had a nice long discussion about magical personas and the changes they've gone through, and how sort of those have formalized into identities for some people. Dalian inside had a theological chat with Metatron about the existence of God, despite the existence of other quote unquote gods tyrannizing the supernal, and also got a warning about messing with quote unquote sympathy, whatever that means. Um, and so, as Dalian is walking out of the church and the door closes behind him, I think Balthazar asks Hall, "So, are all of your Anglican priests witches?" Hmm. Yes, and this clearly aligns with his worldview as he nods like very up and very down with his chin. And Dalian rejoins you. Mhm. That is a word he used many times. Does Dalian mention the last tidbit that he got from Metatron? And it probably comes through with all of its meaning of uh, contagion, of sort of the space between you and the rest of the quote unquote world sort of dissolving, and sort of the contagion from you infecting other things, and the contagion from those other things leaving their traces on you, as sort of the usness of us, bleeds into the world around us, and the usness or the thatness of the world around us bleeds onto us. And also the spell that you cast to enhance sympathy between you and the crew. Hmm. Yeah. Balthazar is very confused by the random syllables coming out of your mouths, but he's sort of standing, or he like I guess wanders away to go like look at a cow or inspect a horse in a paddock nearby or something. um, speak. Um, to be a little heavy-handed. When was the last? So, Pascal had been sort of very upfront about wanting to check in on sort of this work his spell was doing. If I recall, during sort of our downtime, sort of inspecting how the company was settling into the crew. When was the last time he inspected, the sympathy between himself and other crewmates? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and okay. You you say red without saying red. Yeah, he seems very much lost, but is listening to you as you're having this conversation and is watching, you and your face very intently. Clearly paying a lot of attention to something. Yeah, I mean, looking at your eyes, they're um this sort of breaks him out of his concentration, as it were, and he shakes his head and goes, "No, no, sorry, I was just lost in thought." Meanwhile, um, is there anything here in what's it, Father Richard's Happy Valley that we want to do as the afternoon draws on? Okay, all right. Where is that calendar? Uh, there we are. Okay, so we will. Oh, the clock doesn't start automatically. Interesting. Anyway, so we're nearing towards sunset. It's still the 14th of March, and you guys get home. It takes sort of the better part of the afternoon. You arrive just about at dinner time. There's plenty of time for it during the walk. Ooh, sorry. Oh no, sorry. I had a difficult burp and was worried it was coming through. Continue. It's a bit short. Mist is good for now, but if you buy the first dot of Shadow Name, you're required to add 7 more words onto it per dot. That's the tack I've been taking with one of my mage characters in another game. He's up to like 14 words. Um, but so Dalian is going by Mist now. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think when Dalian says this in high speech, what he actually says is the parts of this word that most semiotically resonate with him. Like, what is it about Mist that feels right for his magical persona? Is it like the occlusion? Is it the like cool feeling on your skin? Is it that time of night where anything feels like it's possible? Like, whatever it is about it. Well, mm. You can use life magic to combine your bodies, like some sort of mage megazord. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So, evening arrives. You all get back into sight of Nassau. You see sort of the cook fires and the candlelight in the, you know, ramshackle, dwellings scattered and sprawled across this huge beach as you're coming down from the hills. Where is your first stop? It's true. Okay. And is everyone going to that? Okay. Balthazar leaves you at the, quote unquote city limits, and tells you that he will go back to the ship and see what has been done today. And he looks you all over and, thanks you for inviting him deeper into your world. It wasn't exactly the most spectacular thing he'd ever seen, and he definitely didn't expect to be talking to any priests. But he appreciates being included. Hmm. He gives you significant glances and then trots off. Well, he doesn't trot, he walks, but it very much comes across as trotting, even if he isn't. Um, so you make it to the inn. I don't remember if it was the Crimson Cutlass or not. We'll just say it was somewhere else, slightly, I don't know, nicer. Um, you make your way in, check in with the innkeeper. I imagine Hull asks if Georgia has been out, and he says that he hasn't seen her come down from upstairs. He left her dinner a little bit earlier at the door. So as you approach the third room on the left, which is the one that you had left Georgia in along with your stuff, you find that there is a tray of food laying in front of the door, and there is a bowl of soup on it. The soup is partially eaten, but everything else that was on plates or anything appears to have been taken off. And as you open up the door, you look inside, maybe call for Georgia. There's no candle lit in the room, but it's still somewhat light because this window is south facing. So you see sort of the remains of dusky twilight shining through the open window with the curtains blowing in, and a ladder made of the bed sheet or a rope of the bed sheets leading out of the window. What are you trying to do? Okay. So this could be a case. Yeah, I think that this. Yeah, I would call this definitely a space knowing if you want to just get sort of the direction, the cardinal direction towards her. Also, you could just know her location. Go ahead and stat up the spell. Your sympathetic connection to her is uh I would call you, or I would call it weak, unless you have something else that would have a stronger sympathetic connection to her that you can attempt to borrow. um I think you're about like as intimate as casual acquaintances or coworkers after being on the ship together for, oh, 2 weeks. um if if you wanted to retroactively say that you took a lock of hair from her, like if you had like enough distrust that you feel you would have done that, I'll say that you could have done that. Otherwise, you're drawing something from memory, probably. Does it represent her? Yeah, I think that we can. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't give its Yantra bonus anyway, so I'll just let you have it. Yep. And in the spell widget, if you just click on the sympathetic range button under range, it'll add those things for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and does it have to already be at sensory range? Yeah, okay. No, no. The yantra you use as a sympathy yantra, even if it's like material, which would normally give a +2 bonus, if it's being used as a sympathy yantra, it doesn't give any dice bonus. Are you attempting to contain it or release it or do that other thing that you don't know that you can do? Okie dokie. Reminder that we are house ruling that successes gain. So, in the base rules, if you release Paradox and any successes are garnered, you take a -1 penalty for each success to the spellcasting roll from the Paradox. We're not doing that, so you'll still have your spellcasting roll no matter how much unpenalized, no matter how much Paradox you cause. 2. While you're doing that, I have to run to the door real quick. Be right back. I'm back. Yep. As long as you are focusing on the spell, then it'll give you its +2. But if you stop concentrating, then the spell will end. Any sort of like non-reflexive / instant action, yeah. Yep. Okay, success. Okay. It is leading towards the piers. Or rather, she is at the piers, where you vaguely sort of feel the piers to be in terms of space and distance. Yep. Um, you all make your way towards the piers. It is, or the sun is sort of falling behind the horizon at this point, so the light is fading. But led by sort of your instincts and Pascal's space magic, you make your way from quickly towards the sandy beaches. And you initially sort of Pascal confirms that she's not sort of that she is still on the island. She's not on a ship or anything like that. And it doesn't take long before you find yourselves looking at a small overturned raft, which is laying, a couple of paces away from you down the beach in the dart. More like I don't know, like a canoe than a sailing vessel. Um, you are picking up homesickness and sand, lots of sand, and also lots of homesickness. Dinghy, uh, skiff, all of those are distinct boats. I don't remember what they look like, but they're real. I promise. Hmm. You hear sort of sand shifting, noises of things rustling, but not an answer immediately. Going back to Charlestown, you hear mutedly coming from underneath the whatever, or underneath the overturned vessel. You can't stop me. Give me a manipulation and persuasion roll -2. Nice. So you don't hear any further, shuffling or anything or any noises of movement coming from underneath. You get the sense that she's very still before eventually, after a very long time, as seconds bleed into seconds, into tens of seconds, to almost a minute before she says, okay, but I don't want to be back there alone again. Mm-hmm. And after that, a little bit, sort of, the side of the ship or the side of the canoe lifts up, and this fully grown woman, complete with scars and sun and marks of age. Very uh, embarrassedly, crawls out from underneath and you know stands with her hands behind her back, looking around, not making eye contact, and says again that I want to go home. Jamestown. Yeah. So, you continue to sort of have this conversation with her. You don't get the sense that she's like actively arguing with you, so much just sort of repeat telling you over and over again what she wants, and is sad that she's not getting it now, as typical children are. But she understands when you tell her to come with you, and that now's not a good time. So where do you bring her? It's like after dinner a little bit. Your stomachs are grumbling, the sun is down. uh she shows you a bundle of food, with some bread and some cured meat, tied up in a cloth, which is clearly what she had gotten from dinner and intended to set sail with to keep her going. uh, Sorry, go ahead, Dalian, or go ahead, Emmerich. Um, so she thinks about this. Sorry, well, go ahead. She thinks about this for a little bit and says, um, I wanna go back to the captain. Um, cool. So we have, or out of character, we have about 20 minutes left on the session. So I think that we can sort of fast forward, leaving Giorgio with Balthazar. He agrees to do so. He's slightly confused and not sure that something's not right with this woman. Is the impression everyone has, obviously, because something is not right with her. Something terrible was done to her. Um, but we will cut to you guys or making your way to what is the name of this place? I think it's just named the Capsize, and it's a another open tent near to the beach. It's got barrels galore for you to sit down around fires and regale people with your tales. Uh, it's got questionable rum, and as you walk up, you see sort of over, glowing in the firelight, sort of rising above the sea of dirty, unwashed heads, an enormous blue feather, just the size of the full arm of a grown man, sticking out from the hat of one of the ladies sitting around a particular fire. And she is currently, sitting and listening to a story being told to her by, one of her companions. And I think that we can do this scene and then we'll call it. How do you approach? Mm-hmm. Um, she notices you as you sort of hover at the edge of the firelight, slightly foreboding. But there is a glimmer of recognition in her eyes as she looks at you from the side of her eye while still listening to the story. And she cuts off her companion mid sentence and says, "All right, good, good. Scram, all of you." And sort of everyone around the fire, immediately just gets up and leaves. You get the impression that this has not an irregular occurrence, of them being just told to suddenly leave her be. And you sit down face to face with a woman with a very large blue feather coming out of her hat. Pale skin, brown hair hanging in sort of ringlets over her shoulders, green eyes, looking directly and directly and quizzically at all of you. Well, sit down. Unless we wanted to go do a dance while we had this chat. Mm-hmm. So, a birdie told me that I was going to be asked some questions about the company tonight. You wouldn't happen to be the ones asking those questions, would you? She asks, fully knowing that you're the one she's expecting. So, what can an old woman tell you? This gives her a little bit of pause. She thinks for a bit and says that, look around you. What do you see? So you look around, and obviously you see firelight, people sitting around fires, folks drinking, rum being served, sand, camps, ramshackle buildings. This gives her a little bit of a smile. She says, "Ah, an optimist already. See, there are some who think that optimism will be enough to carry these people. the sleepers, the pirates, the offcasts, the citizens of the glorious Republic of Pirates through any trouble. The King's Navy has many ships in it, and the sleepers here will need all the help that they can get in the coming days. The forces arrayed against the Project of Democracy, Sleeper or Awakened, are potent, and there is some amount of tension between the desire for wishful thinking and practical preparation for the day when this new seat of the Republic of Pirates is going to be attacked directly. Because our fate is yoked to the sleepers here. We fall as a company if they fall. We'll survive, I'm sure. Many of us mages who don't get killed by the servants of the tyrants will go consolidate our power, chase our mysteries elsewhere. But the company will not survive the fall of the Republic of Pirates. And that is not an impossibility. Some would deny that that is the case. Flush with their own sense of power, will workers aren't used to being told that things might not go their way. I've seen too much, picked up too many pieces to think that this couldn't all crumble underneath us. Every safe port taken, every contact killed. It's another uh, step in the safe paths, sunken beneath the bog. We can build them back. We can find new ones. We can build them up, seed ideas, seed hope. But we could also lose everything. And it's only our own efforts, overcoming that array against us that stands between us and that fate. Well, almost certainly. Those assholes have all the best stuff. It's true. Um, Unless you want to go turn around and sail up to Devonshire and buy some sheep. If you're sailing these waters, you're going to be seeing hostile ships before too long. Or rather, you can't get away from seeing ships looking to reestablish hegemony. I'm a fixer. I get people what they need in order to give safe passage to our folks. I'm not the grand strategic thinker. I'm no I'm no general. I make sure that we have what we need, and hope that people do with that what the company needs. And thus far, my work's paid off. May it always. What about you? Tell me about yourselves. Why are you entertaining this crazy pitch from a bunch of greedy, power mad folks on a dirty beach? Oh. And she's sort of, you feel that she's switching modes at this point from, a very navel gazing, sort of introspective mode of thinking to sort of planning for action. And she asks, "Tell me more." Did you fight a wizard? Also, I think I'm just gonna say that she's Irish. I think. Anyway, so no wizard on board, but magic left at the disposal of the crew. Hmm. Yeah, she's sort of nodding along at the mention of the imbued item. You know that, nodding like that seems standard. Yep, yep, I understand. Mm, yeah, there's lots of them fuckers in London. Fucking bloody breeding hive's nest of seers of the throne. You didn't. So no fight directly with one of the seers then, but you did find a ship on their business. Where was it headed? What was it carrying? Any particular cargo? That is true. Um, the Mhm. Yes, and the stated destination was Santiago, rather than Havana. Mm. And at this, she scowls a bit, nodding understandingly. Um, Havana belongs to Spain. It's a it's a stronghold of the Spanish at this point. Sailing to it, flying the colors openly isn't safe. Um, I don't know which seers are openly operating there. They try to keep them moving around in order to throw us off, unless something's changed. What what would they have been carrying that would have been useful to Havana? I know that we've lost a couple of ships near those waters recently, but whether to magical or mundane attacks, I don't know. And she's clearly getting into sort of like mumbling to herself, musing at this point with this information. Mm. At this, you get a big grin from her. Says, "Well, I imagine Gull has told you what you need to do to be considered members of our fine, jolly party. We we're not looking for dead weight here on board. The ballasts have got to be kept light. So we're looking to see what you can haul back. Um, Robbing sleepers with the power available to us is child's play, but we want to see what you're capable of in terms of taking from the weirder parts of the world, claiming what claiming from the fallen what supernatural power you can acquire. In terms of favors, well, we can talk about swapping favors after you're inducted, but I will give you a hint. Lots of Spanish ships sailing from the New World with laden with gold. Sometimes those ships sink, and sometimes many of those ships sink after being raided. And um, I think she nods at your words and says, "I couldn't tell you the names. I don't keep track of the ship names of wrecks. You'll have to ask someone else about that. But I do know that if you head towards and she tells you, the coast of some island that I forget where I put it. There are a number of shipwrecks there, just bellies gorged with Spanish gold and silver, and also with something that has drawn the attention from more otherworldly uh, entities, or she wouldn't say entities, creatures. You might find something of interest in there, you might not, but either way, you'll certainly have a unique experience. And in the worst case, you'll find a lot of gold and silver. Oh, it's a way you could go. You could also sail to Havana, break down the fort, and steal everything they've got there. Or maybe, tear down the Bank of London and grab every Surrey and artifact in the place. Many ways to split the melon. Um, and I think with that, we will end the session as you continue your talk into the evening. Right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you all next time, whenever that may be.